Hi, welcome to this video on Visual Studio Code 1.104, which was released in September 2025. I will take you over the new features and explain how they work. Enjoy! With the amount of models available in GitHub Copilot, it can become pretty overwhelming, and sometimes it's hard to choose between models. There are several guides on how to use these models and which model to use in which occasion. But what GitHub has added now, or VS Code actually has added now, is the auto chooser. So when I open up my dialog or the list of models that are available, at the top I have an opportunity to choose the automatic mode. So what this does is it, depending on the situation, it will either choose the GPT 4.1, GPT 4.0, GPT-5 Mini, GPT-5, or the Claude Sonnet 4 model. And so what it will do is it will first read your prompt and then verify which model suits best for the situation. So let's do that. I switch to auto, I'm in agent mode, and I have a file here that has some complexity that can be simplified. So the first question I'm going to ask is to ask Copilot to help me solve this issue. So the method hash update flight status has too much complexity. I would like it to be more maintainable and better structured for readability. Now let's see what model it comes up with. So you can't see right now which model it's using. I have switched to auto here. It's coming up with an answer, so I'll help you refactor the update flight status method to improve its maintainability, and it's immediately checking what it needs to update, determining the plan. So probably this is going to be one of the more complex models, or the reasoning models, I must say. So GPT-5 or maybe Claude Sonnet 4. So let's take a look at what it chooses here. All right, so it already made some changes, but it's still busy, so we still can't see which model it's using. And to be honest, I just made a mistake. The GPT 4.0 model is not taken into account when making the choice for a model. So we have 4 models here: Claude Sonnet 4, GPT-5, GPT-5 Mini, and GPT 4.1. And of course, if one of these models are disabled by your organization policies, of course it will not use those. All right, so we're here, and if you look closely here at the bottom of the chat, you can see that it chose Claude Sonnet 4 here. And you can also see that the premium request multiplier is at 0.9 times. So the default multiplier for the Claude Sonnet 4 model is 1. So that means that every question that you ask to this model costs 1 premium request. But if you choose the auto mode, you get a discount of 10% on premium requests. So in this case, you see that it reduces to 0.9 premium requests. So that's the upside of using this. So that's great. It chose Claude Sonnet 4, it made some changes, and this makes sense, right? Because it's a little bit of a more complex change where a lot of code needs to be altered. So I'm going to undo this change and then ask Copilot to do something really simple. So here at the bottom, I have an isPrime method, and there is no description there. I would like to have description in the comments. And that is a very simple change. So I would Copilot to choose a more simple model here. So let's see what it does. Add comment to hash isPrime. So that's a pointer to my symbol, to the method name, to explain what this method does. So that should be pretty quick, right? It's a very small amount of code that it needs to read and to ingest, and a very small amount of work. So I would expect it to have to choose a simple model. So as you can see now, it shows the GPT 4.1 model, which has a 0 times multiplier for premium requests. It's the included model. It's a free model you can use as much as you want without any restrictions. So that explains how this works, and there's much more to it. So every request it will evaluate and see which model suits best. So yeah, I hope you liked this feature. I'm certainly gonna try more of it. It's really interesting. To protect files from being edited by GitHub Copilot in agent mode, because in agent mode you will see that Copilot can make a lot of changes in one go, and maybe you lose overview and you don't notice that a certain file that is very sensitive is being edited. You can now add certain files to a setting where files are identified that are sensitive to be edited. So ideally you don't want them to be edited. So let's go to settings. And I'm going to show you here the setting, which is the auto approve setting. So what the question here actually is which file types can be automatically edited by GitHub Copilot and which ones can't. So when the setting is true, they can be edited, right? So by default, everything can be edited with the exception of certain types, like for example, all JSON files in the .vs Code folder. They are set to false, meaning they can't be edited, or at least you will need to provide approval. So just for demo purposes, what I will do is I will add markdown files here. So everywhere in my project, star.md. I forgot the dot, there we go. And I'm gonna set it to false because I don't want automatic edits to these files. I click OK, so that's my setting. Now, I go to this readme.md because I want to add myself as an author here. Add Foucault as an author at the top of this hash readme.md. It's already indicating the first file, which is the file I have open. So let's see what happens. I send a request, it's looking up, and then it says, hey, do you want to allow an edit to a sensitive file? If you don't, you can skip, or you can allow, and you even have more options like allowing the sessions, allowing this workspace, or always allow. So that's how this setting works. If I press skip, I still get a suggestion, but more like what you would expect in chat mode. So it will provide the code, but it won't do the edit, and you can choose for yourself if you want to do the edit that is suggested or that you want to skip it. Sometimes when using agent mode, a lot of changes are applied in your environment, and the list can get quite long. The list is down here, but what they did now is they made this list collapsed by default. So by default it's collapsed, you can expand it and you can see the individual changes that have been applied. So for example, the flights controller tests, the upper file here, has 15 additions and 0 removals. And if I would collapse, it would calculate totals. So in total, 22 lines were added and 3 lines were removed. And when you expand, you see the details. Once you commit a file to your repository or you stage it, the changes will be applied, will be kept for that specific file, so removing it from this overview. And the same applies, of course, if you click keep for a certain file. If I would click keep for this one here for the entire file, it would remove it from the overview and apply those changes. And then still these 2 files are remaining. So it makes it a little bit easier to have an overview of what's happening here. Adding prompts in Visual Studio Code enables you to have customization that is usable directly from the chat window. So to create these prompts, it has already been there for a while. You can click the button here, the cog, and then you select prompt files. So I do already have a prompt file. The location for these files is a .github folder. And then in that GitHub folder, there is a directory called prompts, or it's created the first time you create a prompt. And the pattern of the file name is the name you give it and then .prompt.md. You can open it up and it contains Markdown. And what is new is that you can now not only select the ask mode and agent mode and edit mode, but you can also select a custom chat mode that you have added. So there's a possibility of adding custom chat modes also through the same cog by clicking it and then choosing modes. And you can define your entire chat mode. It's in background, it's based on agent mode. But then, of course, you can define whatever you want. This is beast mode. If you Google Copilot Awesome, there is a great GitHub repository containing all kinds of example chat modes and instruction files, etc. And this is one of them. It improves the way GPT 4.1 model works. So it's an additional set of instructions to make it work better in more complex scenarios. And now you can have in your prompt file a custom chat mode. So that's really great. So what I did as an example is I created a prompt that will refactor any method that you provided, which has a high complexity, code complexity. And it does that by some steps. Of course, it's not really about all of the details here, but let me quickly show you what happens. So because I have refactor complexity.prompt.md in this very specific folder, I can type in / and then refactor. And as you can see, it appears as a / command. And now I add the method that I would like to refactor, which is, let's see if it appears here, update flight status. I probably need to open up the file, so let's quickly go there to the controllers and then the flights controller, and probably it will recognize it. Yeah, there we go. All right, so when I enter this, it will start updating this file. And I can select ask mode here and then enter this one, because it now should switch automatically to the beast mode, which is the chat mode that I requested it to do. So I entered this, and as you can see, it immediately goes to beast mode and it starts working. So really great. The possibilities are endless with this. But of course, again, check this Copilot Awesome repository. It has great examples, and I'm very sure that the community will come up with a lot of very good use cases. From now on in Visual Studio Code, the agents.md file is respected. So what is this file about? It is an additional instructions file that is used by all of the AI coding assistants. It can contain Markdown instructions. And let's take a look now at Visual Studio Code, how that works. So let's create an agents.md. And I have some contents for that will ensure that all comments in code are prefixed by a nice emoji. So let's close the file to make sure that we can see that it is actually included by GitHub Copilot. So I have a prompt here to add the engine sound property to the plane model and to ensure that it's covered in unit test. So if I enter this one and I expand the used references, you can see that the agents.md is included. And now it's of course interesting to see if it picks up on the contents of agents.md. So let's wait a little bit until it has changed some code. There we go. And as you can see, it included here nicely a comment with an emoji. And maybe we'll wait for another code change. So so you can see it's working throughout the responses. There we go, planes controller tests. There we go, classic early engine sound. So it's actually adding those emoji quite nicely. Apart from that, this also works in the coding agent. So the coding agent is the asynchronous part of GitHub Copilot that works based on an issue or a PR. You can assign the GitHub Copilot coding agent and it will start working in the background. So I have a PR here, and in this PR you can see it's a draft. You can see Copilot is assigned to this one. You can see that it made some changes. This is all changed by Copilot, and then I asked it to verify and to check that it adhered to the instructions. So if we take a look at the files that were changed, you can see the same is happening here. So that's really great. You can it means that this agents.md is respected in all of the environments, irrespective if you're local, working on a local environment, or if you use the coding agent. With prompt files, you can store a predefined prompt using Visual Studio Code. And to do so, you go to the cog, you click prompt files, enter for a new prompt file, then you can choose whether the prompt file is stored in your local user data folder, so you're not sharing it with your fellow teammates, or you store it in the .github folder in the /prompts directory, and then you commit it to your repository, making it available to your teammates. So I pressed enter, and now I can add the name. So for example, I would create a plan prompt. I can define which mode it will use. In this case, I will choose ask, and then I can use Markdown to explain what it needs to do for me. So in this case, I'm instructing it to create a plan and don't write any code. So now I have a prompt file, and to be able to use it, I type / in my chat and then plan. So as you can see, the line ends with workspace prompt file, indicating that it's a prompt file I created. Tab for to accept it, and then let me open up a file. So we have a controller here that has some complexity. There we go. That's update flight status. So how to refactor hash update flight status to reduce its complexity. So now it should follow the instructions in the prompt file and only create a plan and not write any code. So there goes the plan. It will outline some steps, and it shouldn't use any code. So great, that worked. The point is, with these prompt files, is the lack of their discoverability. So they are nested in the .github folder in the prompts directory, and yeah, you generally don't open these directories unless there is a need. So if a new prompt file is added, probably nobody would see it unless you would tell them or show them, and that's what they have built in right now. So we have this plan prompt, and when we start a new chat, I'll not do that now, I'll first make the right setting, then it should appear. So what I will do is I will create a settings file in the VS Code folder. You can of course also have this as a local setting only, but then it's only available to you, and I would say that this is a setting that is interesting to share with your teammates. So I'll create a new file here, which is settings.json, and then I'll paste some JSON here. So we're using a chat.prompt files recommendations setting, and what we will put in is plan. So this refers to the plan.prompt.md, so you only need to use the first part of the name, and then the setting is true, meaning that it will show always irrespective files that you have open. You can also set it to false. then it would appear never. So I'll save this, and then I click plus to create a new chat here. And what you see is we have a button now here, which is a shortcut to that prompt file. So if I click it, it would paste /plan in my input window, and then I can start to type the rest of my prompt. So this is all great, but I can imagine that you have certain prompts that only apply to certain file types. So there is another way. So let's create another prompt file to do some HTML syntax validation. So again, enter to create a new prompt file. I'll store it in the .github folder, and then HTML syntax, I'll call it. There we go. And for this one, I would also like to use ask. And what it will do is it will verify the correctness of the code. There we go. I'll save that. So yeah, it's there, but now it's not discoverable yet because we need to add it to the settings.json again. So I'll add that file. I'll edit the settings.json and make sure that this setting is there. So adding another line here, comma, HTML syntax, and then resource X name is .html. So that means that it's filtering for files that end with .html. There is another setting. There's also resource, if I'm correct, file type, which is more general than you would say, for example, HTML, and it would include .htm as well and some more files. You can look that up in the update page of the VS Code team with the release notes. So let me save this, and now let's create a new chat, and you will see that this HTML syntax does not appear. It only appears when I open up here in the front end. We have an index.html, and now I click plus to start a new chat, and now you see that this button appears, and I can click it to add that specific prompt to the chat. So this is how you can make those prompt files more visible for your team and make sure that you share the settings.json in your repository. If you ever wanted to change the font in chat, you can now do so. So if you go to settings and you search for chat.fontFamily, by default, it has the value default in the field, but of course, everybody wants Comic Sans in their chat, right? Let's make it Comic Sans MS. Enter, and there we go. Finally, I have Comic Sans in my chat. I'm really happy. Chat sessions is a view where you can see which agents are working for you, which coding agents. So you have a local coding agent. If you switch to from ask mode to agent mode, you ask a question, then your local agent starts to work. But there's also a remote agent. If you host your repositories on github.com, you can use a remote agent. It would then be triggered by either assigning an issue to GitHub Copilot or in a pull request. And as you can see on the left hand side, you can see all of my sessions. So these are the local chat sessions. So that this is the coding agent that I'm, the local coding agent that I'm asking to do work for me. But then below that, we can see the GitHub Copilot coding agent working remotely on github.com for me. So I do have two sessions here, one of which is finished and it's asking me for a review, and the other one is currently working. I can click it, and from there I can see what it's currently doing. So this is the session view. The session view you can also see on github.com. But there is more. So what I can do even is start a remote coding agent session right here from Visual Studio Code. So this plus, if I click it, it opens up a chat very similar to the chat that we see in the at the right hand side for the local coding agent or for local agent mode. But then if I would ask a question here, it would start a coding agent session asynchronously from what I'm doing locally. And yeah, this session I created in the same way. So You can see that I asked it identify the most important refactoring, which only involves changing one file and implement refactoring. So that's working for me in the background. They made this session view a much richer experience. So what you can now do, for example, is I can right-click one of the sessions and then, for example, check out pull request. And what this does is it takes the branch that is created for the changes, it takes it locally, it checks it out, and you can, for example, run the application and see if it works. You can also cancel the coding agent for any running sessions. You can close the pull request, and of course there's more options there. So yeah, it's great to now have an overview of everything that's running that you started. Sometimes what I see is that it doesn't refresh very well, so you can click the refresh button, it will reload everything. So yeah, use this to your advantage to keep an overview of what GitHub Copilot is doing for you. If you make the move to your browser, you will see the same, right? I have two pull requests here. One is ongoing, that's why it's identified as WIP, work in progress, and the other one is waiting for my response. So I can click it from here as well, and you will see exactly the same question, refactor the updates. Oh, in this case, it already chose, so you can see what choices it made. Update flight status method. And so this is the question I asked. And yeah, we can scroll down to see what GitHub Copilot has been doing. You can see it's still active, and you can click the view session button here, and it would take you to the active session. And there you can exactly see what it's doing, but it's more or less the same view as you would have locally in your VS Code. And there's even more. So if I hover over one of these sessions, I get detailed session information. And what I can also do is click this tiny little button, and I'll do it here because it will be more interesting. And that will show me a diff of the files that have changed. So you can see here at the top which file it was, planescontroller tests.cs, and then I scroll down to the next file. I see here that my test project has changed. The planescontroller CS has changed. So this gives an overview locally of what has changed, and it works, of course, seamlessly with the fact that we can now check out the pull request that I showed before. Another thing to show is if I hover over the Copilot icon here, I do have the chat sessions also here. Yeah, and you can click the view chat sessions, and then it would take me to this window if it's not selected. So there's a lot going on here. I hope it helps you make better use of it. There are some more features that of course you can dive into. You can, from here, you can immediately change names of local chat sessions and even start a new local chat session, right? As you can see, and it would open it in a different window. So yeah, a lot going on here. Take a look and use it to your advantage. Locally, you can use agent mode, and remotely we have Copilot coding agent that works asynchronously. There are different ways of putting GitHub Copilot coding agent to work from Visual Studio Code. And one button that was already there is the button that you can see here. This is the Delegate to Coding Agent button, meaning that anything you would ask here now and click that button would be dispatched to the coding agent and is not running locally anymore. So it's asynchronous, and you can continue to continue your work locally. So to get this button, because it's not there by default, you will need to make a certain setting. And this setting is only available when you have the pull request extension installed, the GitHub pull request extension. So if you have that installed, you get this setting UI integration. So it's GitHub pull request.codingagent.ui integration. And you can, by default, it's switched off. And you can switch it on, and then you get this button. So that was already there. The only thing is now it takes into account also any file reference that you have. So it brings those file references to the coding agent, taking that into account. Didn't do that before. So that's a great improvement. Another thing you can do is probably a lot of people use the to-do indicator to indicate that there's some work left in this file. And what you can now do is you can hover here over this or click the click the icon here, and there is different options, of course, like modify, review, but there's also the delegate to coding agent. So that means that the to-do will be implemented by the coding agent. It picks up on those patterns. In agent mode, it can happen that the Copilot agent wants to run a terminal command to build your application, to run unit tests, or do any file operations. So that happens, and let's take a look here. If I ask Copilot to use a terminal to list contents of the current directory, what it will probably do is it will prompt me if I would like to allow to run a certain command. In this case, it uses ls. And I have an allow button. So I can, of course, allow this, right? And then the next time it would run it would again ask me to allow it. What I can also do is enable auto approve. So previously what you could do is allow for this session only or always, and there was something in between. Now you first need to enable auto approve, which is a setting in your settings.json, so your local Visual Studio Code settings. So if I enable this, it will prompt me to ask if I would like to enable this, because there is obviously a risk. The approval of these commands is based on regex, and there can always be a risk. When some external source you pull into Visual Studio in the Copilot window does some prompt injection, it can run commands on your local machine. So be very wary about the potential risks. Maybe read documentation that Visual Studio Code provides with this setting. So for now, I'll enable this, and then it's going to run ls. And then you wonder, okay, what just happened? Because I see auto approve by rule ls, right? I can click that and it will open the settings. And let me make a little bit more room here. So there is a setting that you can't edit here. So you will need to edit this in settings.json. And what you then see is there is a chat.tools.terminal.autoapprove where I previously put some stuff in, but ls is not there. So what happened to this setting? So to be able to see the setting, because ls is something that is now approved by a set of built-in, a list of built-in commands that Copilot would allow to automatically run. And to reveal those, you need to add a setting here called the following chat.tools.terminal.autoapprove. And then when I do colon, you can see that it's already auto-completing this. So now I press tab, and this is the actual list that it's allowing. So this is some kind of a hidden feature to reveal all of the things it's allowing. As you can see here, it's allowing ls because it's set to true. You can review all of these, make changes, of course, but yeah, this is just a way to... you can't make changes here. If you want to make changes, you'll need to do that in this setting here. So let me remove it because it's a duplicate now, because it's a hidden list that's already there. And what's more, when I now run, for example, let me open up a new one. Can you check if I have any Git stashes for this repository? And of course, it needs to run now a terminal command to verify which stashes are there. And now, because I have enabled terminal auto approve, I get more options here. I can now again always allow this command, git stash, always allow this exact command line, so that's including list, making it more specific and less risky, and you can configure auto approve, taking it to taking you to the configuration. So for now I will approve the git stash, and I'll show you what happens. It will now run the command and in the command line and provide me with feedback. But what you can see below it, it says auto approve rule git stash added. So I can click that now and it will take me to the settings.json, and there you see that it added git stash and set it to true. So that's how it works, and it makes it really easy to say, okay, I don't like this anymore, let me just remove it, and then next time it would allow git stash, would not allow git stash to run. We can put it back, and that's maybe interesting as well, to start a new chat and then ask the same question again, because now it should run it automatically. As you can see, it ran it without my consent, or my consent is actually in a configuration file, and I can still go there and remove it. And then, just for you to know that it really works, I'll start a new chat. I removed this, and then it should ask me again for the consent before running this, and as you can see, it does. So that's how this works. It works way better than it did before. It really helps to have that default list, but do review it before you start to use it. And if you don't like it, then do not enable that list. Just remove the setting it added. Let's see if we can find that setting back by going into settings. So this is the terminal auto approve, but we need to chat.tools.terminal.enable auto approve. There we go. Enable auto approve. So when I switch this off, I'm back to normal, and the next time I'm running a command, it will again ask me if I would like to enable auto approve. So by doing this, it would revert it. And now, for example, if I would go back to my command to list the directory contents, let's see, there we go. Then I need to allow it again. Running terminal commands is part of what agent mode does in Copilot. So what I built is a simple script, and I'm going to ask Copilot to run that script. But what you sometimes see is that these scripts require input, and GitHub Copilot generally cannot cope very well with those scripts asking for input, and that has changed now. So what I can do here, I have this test.ps1, and what it will do is it will ask the user to enter a Y to continue and an N to cancel. And it will wait until the user provided input. So if I now ask the Copilot to run this file, then it will run it obviously, and it will ask me for consent. So I click allow, and then it runs it, and then it discovers, hey, I need to provide input. The terminal is awaiting input, enter to continue or to cancel. And then it asks if I would like to send the Y followed by an enter to make sure that it continues. And then I click allow, and then it actually sends the Y and it reads the output. So that's really a great addition, I would say.